Hey guys, it's Chandra here, and welcome back to another episode of Indirect Knowledge. So, guys, today we have a very special tarot card reading, and this is for Laura. And the relation, the the, the reading has to do about a relationship, and I'm not going to mention his name just for the sake of everyone's privacy and everything. I don't really like to do that when there's like multiple names or people involved because I think it's maybe a little too easy for people to be nosy and snoop on people and stuff, and I don't think that's really a nice thing to do. So I'll just leave it at Laura and her guy, or the guy that she's been previously involved in. So there's been a bit of a separation with this couple, and Laura wants to know, like a two-part question sort of deal. That's like she wants to know, is he going to come and drop things off in front of her door and then leave? And, to follow up on that, is this a coward and pretty much closure? So that's kind of what the question is. That's what's being asked. And so now we're just going to get a little bit of insight into this situation. So for this particular reading, I think what I'm going to do for this is just kind of do like we're going to do like a 3-card reading and just see what we can figure out, kind of get some clarity and insight on things. So the 3-card is great when especially like when we're asking like yes or no type questions. But as you guys know, like nothing is ever really just yes or no. You can get a yes or no answer, but there's normally more that goes along with these kind of readings than just what meets the eye. And I tend to pick up quite a bit like with these particular readings when it comes to these types of questions that are being asked. So let's just look and see what we got here. Yeah. These are very telling cards. And before I get into actually doing the reading here, let me just take a minute to kind of zero in on and let my intuition and everything kind of happen. As you guys know, I'm a monk and I've been, psychic since I was a small child, and that's just continued to build and build and build since childhood. So I pick up things relatively quickly, relatively easily, almost effortlessly in many circumstances these days. And even now it continues to grow. And guys, I've done thousands and thousands of these tarot card readings over the years. And things just sometimes like it's the energy of things. I try my best to kind of articulate this for you guys so you can get more of an understanding of kind of what the experience is like for me. Because I think some people I've had some very interesting conversations with people about this very topic. And so I try to give insights as I get the insights coming in. So with this particular kind of reading, we're really zeroing in on his energy, because that's what Laura is really trying to figure out here. She's trying to figure out him and try to figure out, like, of course, a relationship, but he's half of that relationship. He's half that component. So it's about, it's about like, where's the relationship going? And specifically, like, what is it about him? Like, what's his? And once we understand him, once Laura understands him and what's the likelihood of things happening, like with regard to her question, at that point, she's able to make better decisions, in terms of like what her outcome could be, like what she may want. So it doesn't, like, nothing's ever engraved in stone, so to speak. It's not like nothing is ever totally fixed. There's usually, like, especially when we have answers or we have information, we can take that information and use it in order to kind of, I don't want to say manipulate, but we can use it in order to help us get what it is that we're wanting, or to get the best resolve. So yeah, I've been getting quite a bit. So let's just dive right in. So the first card that we have here is the 7 of Swords. Keep in mind, guys, we're talking about him. So the 7 of Swords, if you look at this, there's an encampment back behind this individual. This person's kind of sneaking off, kind of looking behind him, making sure nothing's coming. Swords are symbols for thoughts or ideas or thinking, and it's usually those kind of, it's sort of like we're divided into two. We have our very conscious rational self, the thing that's the doer, that's us going and doing whatever, it's the side of us that people see, that people get to experience, that people get to know. And we also have that other part of us that we don't really let people ever see. It's that secret thoughts, it's the things within us, it's the ideas, it's the scenarios, the role plays, all these kind of things happen in the mind. And for one who has conquered the mind can be the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind can actually be the greatest enemy. And so it's about getting control of our thoughts, control of our ideas, and being able to use them in the best way possible for ourselves, for our situation. In this case, and all we see this person kind of fleeting. They're not staying within the camp, within the tribe. They're going it alone. This person is leaving and going alone. Now, why might they be doing that? Well, there's a lot of different reasons why people leave their situations behind or take a break from their situations, things on that end. It could be disputes in relationships. It could be, a lot of different things can cause that to happen. But a lot of it's in the mind. It's our own thoughts. It's, sometimes people make decisions based on fear. That's often a huge motivator for people. So if people feel threatened or they feel like their world could come down around them at any moment, that they could put themselves into danger or a bad situation, they might leave a situation for that reason. Just, self-preservation, protection, those kind of things. On the other hand, sometimes people don't really handle emotion all that well. And so for that reason, maybe they want to escape that side of things. They just don't want to get involved with, a very emotional roller coaster, up and down kind of life experience. They want to just kind of sidestep that. These are people that are sometimes often better on their own, to kind of look at what they need. Another reason people leave their situations is sometimes for selfish reasons. It's their own personal desires or their own personal interests. Maybe they feel like the person they're with doesn't really support those interests or those desires or that lifestyle and that kind of thing. And for that reason, they may just kind of bow out gracefully or sneakily in the middle of the night or, before the sun comes up. That could be like another situational, thing that's going on with this. Now, when we have the seven and all, seven's really about spiritual. And oftentimes with the spiritual, we have this kind of going alone. You don't see a lot of monks, for example, married or with children and different things. I'm not saying that isn't the case. I mean, it is. But a lot of it is more about just keeping a focus on God and their spiritual disciplines and things on that end. They may have association with other monks, but really it's really a personal self journey, a one-on-one relationship with them and God, for example. And sometimes people are just really driven in a particular direction. They have a certain philosophy or a certain way of looking at the world, certain interests, and they can't see their life being, motivated by anything else besides their personal mission, so to speak, kind of their personal, the direction that they're trying to take themselves into. And so that's what this card is really all about. So putting that into perspective with this guy, we see a lot of different possibilities. Now, we'll make more sense of those possibilities and zero in on something here in a minute. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there to kind of let you guys kind of experience the energy of this card a little bit, to kind of understand more about it. It's not just black and white oftentimes with these kind of situations. Sometimes it's really the subtle things, it's the things that aren't really said to us. And when you have things going on in the mind, you have a playground for turbulence sometimes. And that's just like where anything can happen. It's a playground of sometimes misinformation. The mind can sometimes give us misinformation, tell us lies, or we misconstrue things, or we misjudge things, or we read too much into things. That's all this kind of mind energy stuff that's going on with this card. And that's what's going on with him. So he has like his own thinking on this. It deviates to a place that takes him into a place of his own. So it's not his thinking, his rationality those kind of things are not the same as yours, Laura. So, if you know that, then it's easier to kind of find to figure out like what the motivation is, or, how to connect with this person in a different way that works for them, instead of just what necessarily maybe works for you, or kind of what your ideas are. So it does take a little bit of openness, and sometimes getting people to let down their guard comes through tolerance, like compassion, just really having a listening ear, understanding where they're coming from, even though you may not agree necessarily. Empathy, sympathy, compassion, these kind of things. All right, so that card is sort of, keep those ideas in your mind, keep that kind of going, because we're going to take that in a minute to a different level. But the next card we have is the Emperor. Now, what do you think of when you think of an emperor? You think of a ruler, right? Emperors rule kingdoms. What is it? I forget what the fairy tale, or I think it was some kind of fairy tale where the emperor's clothing or something like that, where whatever the emperor said, people had to basically go along with, or they could get punished if they didn't. And, they basically had to tell the emperor whatever he wanted to hear to keep him happy, whether it was true or not. Sometimes that's the situation with situations. Sometimes we're forced into these situations where we kind of have to, in order to get along, you have to kind of placate, or you have to kind of not always say everything that's on your mind. There's sort of like rules to warfare. There's, not to sound Machiavellian here, but, sometimes you have to do what you have to do to survive and to thrive in certain relationships in order to get what you want from those relationships. And the emperor is like, when you have this personality, this dominating kind of personality, or somebody that may have resources that you need, or you're relying on a person for something, a good example of this is a situation where there are children involved in relationships, and two people are left to raise this child or children, and they have to balance that out. Maybe they're not right for each other, and so they move in different directions, and it can be very heated. It can be very ugly. It can be very devastated, the split. And now you've got these children involved in this equation, and there has to be care for the children. There has to be decisions made, managing the effort. It can be very ugly and nightmarish, and it can be very troubling. And you have these kind of, everyone wants this authority, this control, or to say, I want it this way. We need to do it this way. And they want to get their way. And so it's sort of like playing a tug of war back and forth all the time. Who has the power? Who doesn't? Who's stronger, taking the stronger position? Who has a weaker position? And if you find yourself in a weaker position in a relationship or in a situation in general, it may be like you may have to kind of, going back to those Machiavellian days of like the courts and everything, where, sometimes you had to say what you had to say in order to please certain people, or you had to do what you had to do in order to please certain people that, well, they influenced your outcomes. They held power over you, and they could get you what you wanted, or they can take away what you had. And so, maintaining that balance was sort of the thing there with the emperor. Now, the emperor here in this particular case, the emperor is really, like we said, he's the law of the land, so to speak. So when we're thinking about law and we're thinking about order, in order to maintain some kind of law, some kind of order, there has to be some hierarchy. There has to be something that's set in place that people follow, like a set of rules or a set of laws. That's what the emperor really, is saying here, So like now if we take this and put it back into the context of the relationship here, Laura's situation, it's really about like, okay, so if there's a power play here, if there's a person that's got more of the power, more of the say-so, that kind of thing, the other person may intentionally take the back seat, or, just kind of like, okay, I don't want to upset this person. And that's kind of what I'm picking up here, there's certain, like, the person that has the power is the one that makes the rules. Unfortunately, if you don't present those rules in a nice way, or if the rules don't work for all parties concerned, you have people breaking the law or breaking the rules. And when that happens, of course, there's punishments for the person that doesn't obey the laws or doesn't keep the standards that are supposedly supposed to be met. And that person can get in trouble. And if that person gets in trouble, they may be ostracized, imprisoned, um, forced into some kind of a negative consequence, something that they don't want. Something could be taken away from them, and the emperor has control over that. And so what I'm picking up here is that this person is really seeing your energy more as this emperor type energy. And so, they may not be living up to your expectations or your standards. There may be some things that are kind of beneath the surface, more involved in this particular situation, but they may have to do what they need to do in order just to survive the situation, or to please you, or to keep you from becoming upset, or acting out, or doing something that they don't like, or avoiding what they don't want, that kind of thing. And that's the Emperor card there. The other thing too to note about the Emperor card real quick that just came to me sort of as a way of kind of like processing this, keep in mind that in relationships and situations in general, societies even, the emperor or the law of the land or the figurehead, whatever you want to call it, it could be the president, or it could be the Supreme Court, it could be a collection of people even. When we have law and order, those are the things that really do create foundations. They're the things that, as long as we're maintaining a law and order, then there's a certain set of standards, and then that creates sort of like a nice platform for growth to happen, for things to extend. If you don't have that foundation in place often, the walls can come crumbling down around you. There is no foundation, there's nothing to kind of keep those walls in place, and you have problems, so even though sometimes, but this card really is about having compromises on the rules, like really sitting down and saying, okay, well, this is what I really need. This is what I have to have. If you can't, live up to these expectations, I don't think I'm asking too much, but if you can't just follow these simple things, if you can't like give me this, well, I'm afraid this just isn't going to work. So I'm going to leave it in your hands to make that decision. And then at that point, you have to kind of let go and let the person make the decision. Unfortunately, like, I don't really pick up a really strong going along with kind of sense about this person. This person could leave the situation just for the sake of, not being compliant with the needs or the wants or the desires or the expectations or the laws or the order, all that kind of thing that you might need, Laura. So this person just may not be able to live up to those expectations, or even really be able to exceed those expectations. And also in your mind, it could be that this person is indeed a coward, or that, this is a weak-minded person. This is a person that I don't have any respect for, that kind of thing. And you may very well feel that way. But it's good to know the other side of the coin too, like to kind of understand where this person's coming from, and just not everybody, like sometimes standards can be too high, the benchmark can be too much to think about it. Or it could just be, it takes them out of their comfort zone, and it's not really what makes them tick or kind of where they're at with things. So you can have some kind of conflict that happens with that situation. So the last card, let's move on. The last card is the Lovers. And of course, we're talking about relationship here. And there's male and female energy here. And we have the angel, the sun and stuff, So let's talk about the Lovers. So Lovers are about balance, This is this is about partnership, so it's about like partners coming together, separating, and that kind of thing. That's what we're talking about here, of course, our partnerships and all, but really for this particular reading, this card is really about like choice, and both of the people involved have to make a choice. You have the female, in this case is Laura, you have the male, and in this case it's the other person. We won't mention names. And the choice comes from both parties. There's two sides to every story. There's two sides to every situation. We see it all the time in relationships. One person wants what they want, and they want the relationship to work out, and the other person is just not in alignment with what the other person wants, doesn't see their vision, doesn't trust their vision, doesn't want what they want. And so they go and they decide, no, this isn't going to work for me. And when that happens, it can be painful for both sides. It's sort of like, for the one person, it's like, well, this really didn't work out like I had hoped. I wish this person would have been more like this, this, and this. And then on the other side, the other person's like, well, I don't really understand. Like, I mean, I'm giving this person a good life. I'm giving this person, my heart. I'm giving this person everything of me. And they're just kind of walking away. It's not good enough for them. And so there's those feelings of like, almost kind of like resentment, like, why is this happening? Why is this person acting this way? And it's very like upsetting, it's just sort of mentally exhausting too. It can wear you down and really just bring you kind of more down in that kind of a zone, that kind of a level. So yeah, it can really have that kind of an effect on a person. And so like with regard to this situation, and I hope you guys can, I don't know if you're picking up the same kind of energy that I'm picking up here, like with this Lovers card, but it's sort of like, it's almost like great expectations are not being met. It's sort of like, why is this person not responding? Why are they not giving me, why are they not meeting my needs? I mean, I'm not asking for much, but yet they're not delivering anything like close to what I need. And so there's that sort of that disconnection there. And it's very, it can make us feel like, oh, this person's such a weak-minded imbecile or weak-minded person, like just this person is just, what's going on with this person? And it could be that this other person maybe is already sort of moving on. It could be that maybe they just realized at one point, like, yeah, I'm not really into this. And maybe they've even looked at like the potential of being in other relationships. And so that's a possibility that maybe they've been in those other type of situations. So this person could have had someone on the side. They could have cheated. It could be something entirely altogether different. Maybe this person is, they want to have kind of, I don't want to say sneaky, but they want to have this life on the side that doesn't involve you and yet still have you in their life. It could be a situation like that I'm kind of picking up. But I think by and large that at the end of the day, it's going to really come down to the way that communication is put forward. Now that you have this information and we kind of see where the big picture is with all of this, kind of like with regard to where he's at, we can answer the question, but really the answer is with you. It's sort of like, okay, if I manage to control my emotions and I just really kind of put this out together, and then I go and I have a conversation with this person, and I can think of this conversation with regard to them and kind of where they're at and maybe what their needs and all these kind of things are, then maybe I can, get it to, make things happen and stuff. So, that's always kind of that's always a possibility there. So, but if this person is just not going to meet your level of expectation, if they're not going to really be the person that that you're looking to be with, if this is not the person that you need in your life, then yeah, probably that choice when we get to this Lovers card is probably one of separation. It's probably like, well, this is not going to work for me, so let's just disband this thing now and see what we can do. So it's really, the choice is really that thing. As far as what's going on now with him, he'll probably come and drop things off. I'm picking that up probably, and then just probably get out, probably just kind of leave it behind, and not really have much to do. So in your mind, it would be, yeah, you could judge this person being kind of cowardly, or, just not wanting not wanting any conflict, not wanting to upset anything, just kind of like, here you go, you do you, I'm doing me. And that's kind of the energy. And a lot of that is predicated on what has already happened, kind of where this person's mind is, how they feel about the situation, you and everything. And then, of course, where you're coming at as well. And so there's emotions that's been involved in this. And those emotions are very motivational. That's people usually make decisions based on emotion, later come back and justify it with logic or rationality or reason or something along those lines. This applies to relationships as well. So if a person acts in a certain way, it doesn't mean that that person would react that way in every given circumstance. Sometimes it's just whatever they're emotionally feeling and whatever caused them to feel that way, whatever the stimulus was for that. It could have been a conversation. It could have been a reaction. It could have been a threat. This person could very well be forced into a corner or something, or forced into like a certain behavior pattern that would play out in that kind of a scenario. And so the way to prevent that from happening would be to change the stimulus. If this person feels threatened, it would be to be more welcoming or more accepting or more friendly. Like if do you want to associate with people that are mean to you, or do you want to associate with people that are really happy and that really invite you into their life and make you feel like a part of a family, that compliment you instead of criticize you? I mean, these are the kind of things that we're looking at here. So, what attracts people and what repels people are really the factors at play, like in this outcome. That's where I'm kind of going at with all of this. So what's the key to relationships and getting what you want? It's service, and I've said this before in other readings with other people. And I'm bringing this information out. This is some monk advice as well, from both the spiritual, but also relationship place in general. When people serve the other person without the expectation of anything in return, and it's solely for that, then that's where love is. And give me just one second, guys. A little background interference there. Apologize for that. So where I'm going at with all of this is that, there's sort of a situation that I see this happen a lot. And this happens oftentimes where there's children involved in situations. I'm not saying that that's the case here. But what I'm saying is that when two people get together, oftentimes love is this helping each other out, doing for each other, loving each other in such a way that, so I guess I got a little distracted there. Felines. Kitty cat games, guys. Sorry about that. Anywho, so love is service to the other person without the expectation of anything in return. That's action. That's material goods or gifts or anything like that. It's looks or any of that kind of stuff. None of that business. Nothing to do with materialism. It's all a very spiritual kind of connection that happens when you love someone. And that connection or that love comes through service or doing for the other person or loving the other person. And it's what we can do to make this other person's life better. How can we serve this person? And it's interesting. And the dynamic is really interesting because the person that's doing the serving, you would think that person has kind of the weaker role, right? This is a servant, but actually the inverse is true in most of the cases like this. The person that's doing the serving actually has the majority of the power. They wield the most influence in the relationship. They don't realize it because that's not what they're after. They're not trying to control anything. Actually, they're just trying to help this person from a place of genuine love and concern and compassion. And just because they truly love this person and for no other reason other than that. And the other person hopefully does the same thing in reciprocation. So when you do things for people, or when you're nice to people, or when you compliment people, or when you help someone that needs help, it makes you very, very attractive to that other person. You're helping them fulfill something in their life or some goal or something like that. It really helps them, and it makes you very irresistible, in fact. And that's where you get this escalation of like power or escalation of influence over the other person. It's because you're like someone in their life that's very valuable to them. They don't want to see you go. They don't want to see you leave. It would be like, it'd be, well, kind of like a good example of this might be like, so if we look at it from a monetary perspective. Now, most of the time, this doesn't really play out so much, but say like you have these two young people in their early 20s, and one of them just, got lucky or got a good break, and they ended up becoming a multimillionaire by the time they were like 24. And then you have the other partner in the relationship and all that's, worked fast food restaurants or service jobs, and they're good at what they do, but they've never really been successful or been able to earn it or generate some kind of income from the fruit of their efforts. But they're a good person, and so they get together, and the person with the money, maybe says, you know what, you're funny, you want to be a comedian, I can support that, I'll help you out with that. So here's some money, let's go ahead and do this. And they might be just out of kindness, not for any other reason, but just because they have the ability to do it, they start to help this person. Now this person looks at them like, oh wow, I've just hit the lottery. This person not only has money, but they're very kind, and they're trying to help me fulfill some of my goals, some of my aspirations there. And this is a very kind and loving person. Well, this person over here is looking at this person with the money and the love and everything that's really trying to help them. It's very valuable to them, and so it's like, oh, I don't want to let this person out of my life. I don't want to let this person go. And what can I do to help this person also? And you see that kind of that exchange of reciprocation start to take place. And when it's meant to be, or I don't really like that idea of meant to be, but when it works for both parties and they're both supporting each other very lovingly and serving each other, everything is really great. However, what happens when you throw a child into the mix, right? Well, you have to kind of turn toward the idea of like, now we're serving the child, and we have to serve each other's needs. But at the same time, we have this other variable. It's about the child. Sometimes jealousy can happen, and it'll feel like, well, wait a minute, she's given all of her attention to this child now. What about me? Like she was always here for me, but now it's like less about me and more about the child. So if you're not a selfless person and you're like, okay, I get it now. If you don't have that conversation, say, okay, you know what? We need to be there for our child because this little person here, we share this person in common, and we both love this little person. We want to do the very best we can for this small little human person, this mini me, or whatever you want to call it, this baby, this child. But at the same time, we need to have some us time too, and we need to serve each other's, in a nice way also, without getting jealous in that. And there needs to be that common understanding. Otherwise, what happens? Well, this person isn't serving my needs anymore. I'm not getting those needs met. Instead, they're focusing on this other person. They're less attractive. That's a less attractive proposition for us because our needs are no longer being met. Now it's like they're almost judging us because we're not serving the child enough. Well, our heart wasn't in serving the child so much. It was more in serving the other person and also getting our needs met. So now because of that, it's sort of like a disconnection there. And it almost feels like I'm not getting the love that I need, or I'm not getting what I need out of the relationship. And then oftentimes you see a fall apart of the relationship. So I've seen this happen a lot in people that I've coached, counseled, whatever you want to call it, give spiritual direction to, that type of thing. So I see that kind of play out a lot. So the key to kind of any kind of relationship issue is really the service that we do for the other person. It's not about putting expectations, these great expectations or these things on the other person. It's really about letting the other person be free to self-express and service in whatever way possible. We're not giving an instruction map about another human being, what their needs, desires, and wants are. In order to find that out, we have to ask. We have to go the extra mile and say, hey, and sometimes we get subtle hints. Somebody say, oh wow, look at that ring. That's a really pretty ring. So you really like it? And this, oh yeah, it's just so nice. I just really particularly like that diamond cut and this and that. And I just like, yeah, it's very nice. And silver is like my favorite color. So you start to get to know the other person just through the things that they say. Then that gives you an opportunity, maybe later on, when you have a little money or something like that, you might want to buy that ring or something similar for that person, just because, they like it. And why not, right? And it's coming up about things from kind of that approach, that's sort of like, okay, this person really likes to go camping. Yeah, I've never really been much of a camper, but why not? We can go rough it in the woods for a little bit, if it makes them happy. It's about that compromise. But maybe the person doesn't like to go camping, but you do. Maybe it's the other way around. You say, well, you know what? I know that camping's not really your thing. I get it. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't like doing either. That just doesn't really fit the bill for me. That being said, maybe I'll just go build a tent out in the backyard here or something like that, and camp out by myself. Have a little alone time or whatever. Or maybe we can do some camping activities in the front yard, like having a campfire, or roasting some, what do they call those things, s'mores, where you have like the graham crackers and the marshmallow and the chocolate or whatever and all. Who knows? Yeah, I'm just, maybe you can have something like that, or just some kind of a nice little, you make some compromises is what I'm trying to get at, guys. So, but anyway, it's all about that serving the other person and that kind of thing. So you can have a lot of fun with the other person, but sometimes, when our needs aren't being met, the person isn't paying us attention, it can really put a strain on our relationship and kind of the direction, or, where we kind of go out with things, also, if we don't pay the other person enough attention and all, I'm not condoning cheating or anything like that, or, but if you look at the world, like in terms of the non-spiritual, you have the spiritual and then you have the material. Okay. And this is kind of like our, spiritual foundation here. Just some kind of perspective for you, if nothing else. If you have the spiritual and then you have the material, in the material world, it's all about attraction, and attraction comes through the five senses, right? That's our sense of touch, seeing things, hearing things. So like, say there's a guy and a girl together, and maybe they're in their 30s, for example, and, they've kind of gotten pretty used to being around each other. And so I'm not saying the relationship is getting old by any means, but it's just the trust is there. The foundation has been established. Everything's good. But now maybe that one person is not really giving the attention to the other person that they used to give them. Right. And so it's sort of like, well, darn, what's going on here? Why are they acting different? Why are they not, being there for me? Is it my looks? Is it something that I did, or, why am I not the apple of their eye anymore? Why are they not loving me in the same way that they used to love me? And by love, guys, I simply mean serving me, like, why are they not, it's like something has happened here. There's a disconnect, and it's very, very disturbing to the psychology of the other person. So if that's the case, if that's what happens as a result of it, then, if we're dealing with the material world, in terms of that person may start to look elsewhere for getting their needs met. And as a result, maybe they hear, if we're looking at the five senses, like seeing and hearing and stuff, maybe they find, well, let's say it's a guy, for example, like it could be, maybe they go and they meet a younger girl, maybe someone like in their early 20s, that's 10 or 15 years younger than them. This is not something that's unheard of. We see this happen a lot in relationship dynamics, so the guy maybe goes for a younger girl, or it could even be that the girl goes for a younger guy, or it could be that, they go for someone older, that's more mature, that's more centered and focused on them than the person that they were with. That's always another possibility. But let's just go with the first example that I gave you. So maybe the guy is, he hears, and she's got kind of a younger voice, kind of a girly girl voice or something, like softer or something. It's not as shrilling on his ears. She's very because she's naive and stuff, maybe she has less relationship experience. She's always kind of looking out for him, or, talking to him, flirting with him. And to him, that's like, oh, my needs are getting met. Oh, this is really nice. So that attraction is now being shifted. It's being shifted from the relationship that's been there for a while, it's been established, to the potential of something else. Now, there's not enough history with that new person and that other person to have as strong a connection. It can be an attachment, but the connection is not necessarily as strong. So we go back to the drawing board, and then maybe like the guy gets found out that he's cheated or something, right? And so, and of course, there's an upset. There's normally some kind of a crises like upset where it's like, why did you cheat on me? Why did you do this? Why? I can't trust you anymore. You're a blah, blah, blah. I'm judging. I'm just, all these here negative things come out. It's very upsetting to the other person. How could you betray me like that? And it's a sense of betrayal and so on. And the person is like, they don't really, how do you articulate? Well, this person, she's younger, more youthful looking. I'm just kind of attracted, she kind of took an interest in me, kind of outside my control a little bit. It was easy. You weren't really giving me, what I was needing from the relationship. And, this, I'm just, material nature alone just kind of propelled me in that direction, so I just kind of overstepped the boundaries there and kind of went and pursued this other thing, thinking the grass might be greener on the other side. So, can you forgive me or something? Or it might be like, I'm really sorry, and it's not good enough, of course, so it's like, oh, you're a cheater. I can't be with you, somebody that cheats and blah, blah, blah. So, but there's not that understanding of the other side. Like, well, why did this person cheat? We don't think about that. It's just like, oh, we just judge them or deem them or classify them as being this and not being this, or being this and being this too, but the reality is that people have different ways of, in the material universe and material world we live in, those stimuli, those things that, affect us, like with touch, taste, things related to the five senses, they grab our attention and stuff. So if we're not keeping the other person's attention and holding that, if there's not enough of that there, then it's very likely or very possible that the person could, if given the opportunity or whatever, manifest a situation where they might cheat or something. I'm not saying that's always the case or anything, but I'm just saying that that's the potentiality for that to happen. If you understand this simple thing, but someone that has like a really, I'll say spiritual, I'm just saying like a love connection. When we say spiritual, it's really this idea of love, this service to the other person. We're doing it not because we have to, but because we truly love this person and want to do it. With that kind of a connection, it's almost like a spiritual bond you have with that person. It supersedes the material universe and material relationships in general. And when that's the case, then you have such a strong connection that the person wouldn't even think about being with someone. It doesn't care if they're younger or whatever. Those things are not what's attractive to this person. This person's operating on a non-material level. They're operating more on kind of like a spiritual level in a sense. And don't confuse spiritual with like religious or modern day concepts of what spiritual might look like. Just think of spiritual in terms of like beyond the material. Okay, so it's like loving people and doing things for people and all out of passion and compassion. So not because we have to, because it makes us look good, or for any reasons like that, or for any attached reasons, just simply for the sake of doing it, And when you're able to do that and be with someone in kind of a detached way, a lot of wonderful things can happen in those types of relationships and that. So let's go ahead and end it here. But before I do, let me just go ahead and give you kind of like the follow-up to everything, like kind of just put everything into perspective with this guy. So the guy is basically, he's feeling pressured. He's feeling a sense of pressure. It could be social pressure. It could be communication pressure, just in the way that the communication's been happening. There's other influences at play with it. And these things are affecting his mind. And so for that reason, he's kind of like leaving the situation at the gate, so to speak, like going it alone, more or less. It's easier, just why should I be in this situation when it's just easier to kind of go it alone, Sometimes when given the opportunity for something easy and simple, the person just chooses the better outcome. And for him, that's kind of what he's perceiving as being the better outcome. As far as the energy goes, he sees you as more kind of the dominant, maybe more like the controller of things, or the person that dictates, so to speak. We see the emperor, dictator kind of thing. And for that reason, it's sort of like, I don't really want to be under this person's thumb or this person's rule, or, have to sacrifice what I want, my desires, and what my needs are for this other person. So maybe you're going to have to kind of go it alone for a while. At the end of the day, though, let's talk about the relationship. At the end of the day, it comes down to a choice. When we get the Lover's card, it's often about choice. It's about, well, we can do a couple of things here. You can do a couple of things here. You can connect with this person, get them to let down their guard by, acting in a certain way. In other words, being nice, being open with the person, being easy. Make it very easy for this person. Don't be judgmental. Don't show a lot of emotion. Just be very nice, kind. Let things go. And if you let things go and say, look, okay, this has been the past. These are the things. I know, we've had some differences here and things, but let's just talk for a minute, okay? Like, we don't have to, put anything in stone, right away, or nothing like that. We don't have to take this too seriously. Let's just talk about how we truly feel about the other person, in the most basic way, without hurting each other's feelings, So you have a dialogue, you have a conversation, and then you decide to yourself, okay, is this someone that I really want to be with? Or is it just me, And if I do want to be with this person, why do I want to really be with this person? What needs are they fulfilling of mine? And then also ask yourself, what needs am I fulfilling of theirs? And I'm talking about being very honest. You have to take a very clear stance with this and really look at what the relationship really is. Like, who's gaining, who's losing, why are they gaining, why are they losing? And then you get a better understanding of the overall circumstances. And then you can make the decision and do what you need to do. You can take the right actions in order to either maintain this relationship. I don't sense that it would be very hard to keep this person in your life if you chose to. The question is will you choose to? And if you choose to, you have to understand that whatever is driving this person away, you have to figure out what attached them in the first place. And if you figure that out, probably it shouldn't be too hard, considering, you've already experienced it. So you just have to go back in your mind and say, okay, well, this is why they were attracted to me. And this is everything. If you can just put that back out there in front of them, it's like, this is a quick and easy answer. But, if it's not really in your heart, this relationship, then maybe it's better just to kind of, let it go in a nice way. Let this person be free to move on. You be free to move on in your own direction and things. But if this person is someone that excites you, that interests you, that you really want to be with, that you can respect, then you'll have to do that. You'll have to respect this person and, treat them with courtesy and kindness and love and everything like that. And, in order to get that back in return and stuff as well, but not with the expectation of getting that in return. If you do anything for someone thinking that they're going to change or that they're going to treat you in a certain way, so you're giving for the sake of getting something back later on, if you do that, it causes resentment almost every single time. That's why, like, as monks, like, if we ask for a donation or help or something like that, could we use the help? You betcha. I mean, all the time, like, we take vows of poverty and stuff, it's very hard for people to let go of income that doesn't serve their needs, because people, like, let's just be honest, people are very materialistic. They have their own needs, desires, wants, and to think about someone else is almost like sort of an afterthought. So if you ask somebody for money, or you ask somebody for a donation, or you ask someone for a tip, or whatever the case is, you don't want them doing it if it's not in their heart to do it. Otherwise, they'll feel a sense of resentment. And then that puts a strain on the relationship. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. It's the same thing like in everyday relationships. If you're being demanding on a person and say, well, no, you need to do it like this. Why are you doing it like this? You need to do it like this. Come on, this is the way it's done. Why are you doing, you're shortcutting things. Why are you doing it? If you're doing that, acting in that kind of way, it doesn't make the person really want to do it. And that causes resentment. And when a person feels resentment, it's like pushing back. It's like you're not going to get what you want as easily as you would through encouragement and through kindness and through just sometimes overlooking things. Sometimes it's okay to overlook. So you have to pick your battles wisely. Some things we can, sometimes we can agree to disagree. Other times, there are unforgivable offenses that we just can't, we can't overlook or forgive. At least for some of us. It's not true in every case in that. Forgiveness is a huge thing. It takes a big heart to do that. That being said, we're all operating on different levels. And so depending on the level that we're operating with, some of us may find forgiveness effortless. Others of us may be like, there's no way, I can't forgive that. That person is, no. So, if you have that kind of thinking or that resentment, you got to honor that with where you're at. And I mean, that's going to kind of more or less dictate what your decision is going to look like. So anyway, I hope this video helps. I hope it helps other people too that are just kind of looking at it, that have maybe had relationship situations that were sort of in this light, and kind of based around the same kind of subject matter of like people not really fulfilling our expectations or living up to our standards, or, doing things that were just what we perceive to be wrong or not right, or, and sometimes we can't always understand things because of our emotions. I hope maybe that kind of helps open up the door a little bit, or kind of bring some insight and different things to the mix. Anyways, guys, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you get notifications when we come on. And then if you want to ask questions live in the chat, you can always do that as well. That's always appreciated, as long as you feel comfortable asking the questions live and on the air. Also, just so you guys know, all of my information is in the description below this video. If you guys do want to help out or contribute or help or tip or whatever, you're welcome to do that. It's never expected, but it is always appreciated. And we only want people doing things from what's in their heart. So don't help out if it's not in your heart to help out. If it is in your heart to help out, then by all means, please do. We can definitely use the help. Also, if you need spiritual direction, tarot coaching, anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always here for you. As your tarot coach, I'm always here for you. All my information is in the description below this video. My telephone number for the office here at the ashram, and the email address that I use personally one-on-one. I check it every day. So if you don't hear back from me within a couple of days, usually that's an indication that it went into a spam folder or something. So you may want to hit me back up or something. But yeah, that's just, as a monk, this is my service. And so it's what I do. So much love and many blessings. Hope to see you guys on the next episode of Indirect Knowledge.